वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मुखाकरोति वाचालं पङ्गुलं गायति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जयपताकस्वामिति नामिने नमाचार्यपदाय निताकृपपदायिने गौरकथादामदाय नगरग्रामतारिणे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। देहिनां देहसंयोगात् द्वन्द्वानीश्वरलीलया सुखां दुःखां मृतिर्जन्मा शापोऽनुग्रह एव च। देहिनां देहसंयोगात् द्वन्द्वानीश्वरलीलया सुखां दुःखां मृतिर्जन्मा शापोऽनुग्रह एव च। देहिनां देहसंयोगात् द्वन्द्वानीश्वरलीलया सुखां दुःखां मृतिर्जन्मा शापोऽनुग्रह एव च। वैष्णवस् वैष्णवीस् word by word translation. Dehinam, of all those who have accepted material bodies. Deha samyogat, because of contact with the material body. Dvandvani, dualities. Ishvara Leelaya, by the supreme will of the Lord. Sukham, happiness. Dukkham, distress. Mritihi, death. Janma, birth. Shapaha, curse. Anugraha, favor. Eva, certainly. Cha, and. Translation. Because of the actions of the Supreme Lord's external energy, the living entities are conditioned in contact with material bodies. The dualities of happiness and distress, birth and death, curses and favors are natural byproducts of this contact in the material world. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita, we find Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. The material world works under the direction of Goddess Durga, the material energy of the Lord, but she acts under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 544. Shrishti sthiti pralaya sadhana shakti reka chayeva yasya bhuvanani bibharti Durga. Durga, the goddess Parvati, the wife of Lord Shiva, is extremely powerful. She can create, maintain, and annihilate any number of universes by her sweet will. But she acts under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, not independently. Krishna is impartial, but because this is material world of duality, such relative terms as happiness and distress, curses and favors are created by the will of the Supreme. Those who are not Narayana Para, pure devotees, must be disturbed by this duality of the material world, whereas devotees who are simply attached to the service of the Lord are not at all disturbed by it. For example, Haridas Thakur was beaten with cane in 22 bazaars, but he was never disturbed. Instead, he smilingly tolerated the beating. Despite the disturbing dualities of the material world, devotees are not disturbed at all, because they fix their minds on the lotus feet of the Lord and concentrate on the holy name of the Lord. They do not feel the so-called pains and pleasures caused by the dualities of this material world. Translation, and if you like to repeat. Because of the actions of the Supreme Lord's external energy, the living entities are conditioned in contact with material bodies. The dualities of happiness and distress, birth and death, curses and favors are natural byproducts of this contact in the material world. I would like to request the assembled Vaishnavas to please allow me and bless me to share a few points on this beautiful verse. Thank you. So, who is the cause of happiness and distress? Is it destiny or free will? We've been actually seeing the history of Chitraketu Maharaj, and now we are going through his realizations after Parvati cursed him. How did he react? And he's trying to share his perspective of how he saw the situation. And in this verse, Srila Prabhupada talks about Durga Devi. So the first part of the class, I wanted to share a little bit about who is this Durga Devi and a little interesting points about her. In Bhagavad Gita, there is the verse which explains 13:21, Karya Karana Kartritve. So there it's clearly explained that nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So in other words, like in this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, when we are in this material world, these things are going to be there. We are conditioned souls. We have to go through these birth, death, disease, old age. So is it that devotees are not touched by these dualities? Do we suffer or not? Basically, that's going to be the class. So, talk about it. So, Durga means dur means difficulty, and ga means to go. So basically means you cannot go without difficulty. Srila Prabhupada explains that meaning. So Durga Devi, she is a protector of all the jivas, basically. And I will read shortly what Srila Prabhupada says in one of the classes he gave. He explains how she is the mother of this universe, so therefore she is our mother of all the jivas, and Lord Shiva is the father. So where we cannot go unless we accept so many difficulties, that is called Durga. So that's called the material fort where we are in. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this verse, Devi Dhamana Tara Jiva Yara Vasi Jagal Lakshmi Rakhi Rahe Yaha Maya Dasi. The abode of the external energy is called Devi Dhamma, and its inhabitants are the conditioned souls. It is there that the material energy, Durga, resides with many opulent maidservants. So this material energy is actually called as Jagal Lakshmi, because she is also a manifestation of Lakshmi energy. And so she is actually protecting the bewildered conditioned souls. That's in that purport, Srila Prabhupada explains actually also that how Durga Devi is actually a mother. So she is this mother who shows tough love. I mean, mothers here know that sometimes we have to discipline our children, so we are tough with them. We don't smile, and we punish them if they don't do what we say, and when they are stubborn, then we try to take hard ways to teach them lessons. So similarly, Durga Devi, she is our mother who tries to teach us the hard way. Or Prabhupada explains in another purport that Durga Devi, she is the superintendent of police of this material world. There is a song in South India describing the importance of Durga Devi in our devotional life. So basically, in that it explains about the Devis. So the song goes something like this. Yadake bhumi balake shriyu yaduri nalli Durga Devi. Yadake bhumi balake shriyu yaduri nalli Durga Devi. Todeya mele lakumiyagi bidade muddadi bante. So it describes how dear Durga Devi is to Lord Krishna because she is doing this thankless task. So Yadake bhumi balake shriyu. So this is a detailed explanation of the sides where they are, and left side is Bhu and right side is Shri, and in front of Lord Krishna is Durga Devi. She's actually making sure that nobody enters without qualification, so she's right there. And it is said that at the time of universal inundation, at the end of the universal inundation, there is the leaf which floats on the water. It is said to be Shri. And the water itself is said to be Bhu. Bhu Devi takes the form of the water. Shri Devi takes the form of the leaf. And the darkness that is covered is actually Durga Devi. So we can actually connect that concept of darkness with darkness of our mind. In other words, that ignorance, it is actually caused inside of us. When we often say, oh, this is Maya. Actually, it's not that this is Maya. The Maya is here. So we activate it with our consciousness. Why I thought this was important to discuss a little bit was Srila Prabhupada used to say that Indian devotees sometimes are too afraid of Maya, and that's why they fall down. And Western devotees, they're not afraid at all. And therefore they fall down. So the point was to be not too afraid of Maya, but understanding how it works actually helps. In 10th canto, Srila Prabhupada writes in one of the purports, the first chapter, when one understands Durga properly, he is immediately liberated. For Durga is originally the spiritual potency, Haladini Shakti, by whose mercy one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. So the point is to not just theoretically stay away from Maya, but to work on it, to try to see how can we adjust our attachment to Krishna instead of getting attracted to Maya. So it has to be replaced with Krishna, not just running away. In other words, it's not the detachment point that she wants us to learn, but she wants us to push towards Krishna. And it is not really that Durga Devi likes doing this thankless task, because many of us don't like to be managers here, right? It's a very difficult thing to tell people what to do and get things corrected, and it's a headache. So many times we don't like to do it, but we need to do it. Somebody needs to do it. So in one of the lectures, one of the conversations, somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, how did Durga Devi take charge of this material world? How did she get control of this external energy? Wow, she's so powerful. See, she's like Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha. And Prabhupada says she's equally powerful like Krishna to create and destroy the universes. How can she be so powerful? How did she get this position? A devotee asks Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says, she did not get it. Krishna gave it. So it's like, we didn't, maybe some of you here are managers, you didn't become, right? You were given that service. So Krishna chooses Maya Devi. He empowers her to do this task. Like I was saying, there is one way of fearing. Even I know some devotees, they're even afraid of Durga Devi temples or statues. They run away. But actually the right understanding is to request her, because she's our mother. We can tell her, please, my goal is Krishna, so please help me to not be bewildered by matter. And I used to hear as a child, the Madhvas in South India, they have a prayer for Durga Devi. It's called Durga Suladi. They actually tell the women to chant this every day. Because, women are more in Maya or something, I don't know. But it's supposed to be a protective mantra. In order to enter into this world, we need to be having the right consciousness. Whatever we see, if we see it in relation with Krishna, then we are protected from being influenced. But if we just avoid, it's going to come back anyway. It's like Prabhupada says, instead of actually kind of, understanding the prison environment, why are we there? If we try to escape, she will bring you back and put you back in there. And so this is the point. Actually, there was a little paragraph about how to approach Durga Devi as a devotee of Krishna. Would you like to hear that? I need, yes? How many of you want to hear that? Okay. I need a little help from the audio because I'm not used to singing without the... Okay, I'm going to try. Durga Durgeye Mahadurjana Samhare Durgantargata Durge Durlabha Sulabhe Durga Mahime Ninna Mahime Bamma Bargadigaligella Gunisidaru Sarvabhumi Patala Samasta Vyaputa Devi Vargakke Meerida Balusundari Durganada Varabade Bahalavagide Tayi Durga Nihanana Peluvenu ದುರ್ಗಂಧವಾಗಿದೆ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ನೋಡಿದರೆ ನಿರ್ಗಮನ ಕಾಣೆ ಮಂಗಳಂಗೆ ದುರ್ಗೆ ಹೇ ದುರ್ಗೆ ಮಹಾದುರ್ಗೆ ಭೂದುರ್ಗೆ ವಿಷ್ಣು ದುರ್ಗೆ ದುರ್ಜಯೇ ದುರ್ದಕ್ಷಿ ಶಕ್ತಿ. And it goes on. So I won't tell the whole thing. It will take me all Bhagavatam class to do that. The whole concept here is to understand the power of Durga Devi, how she's been empowered by Vishnu. At the end you heard this Durge He Durge Maha Durge Bhu Durge Vishnu. In other words, she's representing Vishnu in this material world because she's also teaching us some lesson. Then, I am actually disconnected from the real culture of Krishna consciousness. So please don't push me into Durgati, means to basically don't push me towards darkness, but please allow the light of Krishna to come to me. And you can actually help me to transcend my own limitations and anarthas. So it basically goes on more and more explaining about the right understanding of approaching Durga Devi or our own material attachments to try to like channel that towards Krishna. Okay, the second part of the class, the first part of Durga Devi is over. The second part of the class, I was thinking, since past few weeks we have been discussing Chitraketu Maharaj, his amazing level of tolerance. We are observing the way he didn't react to happiness and distress, and how the pure devotees, according to this verse, are not affected by duality. And this verse really made me like, really? But I feel pain. I also feel happiness. So how do I understand this? The devotees don't feel happiness and distress. Although today I don't want to really talk about how we should react to difficult circumstances so much, because we've been discussing past few days, right? How do we tolerate situation? How do we, like Bhaktivedanta Maharaj on Sunday gave a fantastic class about our perspective, right? What do we expect? And our expectations are leading us to distress, etc. Because just if I have to say one little thing about that, it's not really what happens, but it's how we react to what happens that matters, especially when we are devotees. Like in the case of Chitraketu Maharaj, it's not really what happened. I mean, something terrible happened. He was cursed to be a demon. But how he reacted to it was actually the major part of Bhagavatam story. And we will also, when we see when Chitraketu becomes Rudrasura, even there, he's been attacked, his arm is cut off, and but he's reacting in a different way. He's focusing on the main goal. And there is, did I bring it? Sorry, can you help me? So there are not only Chitraketu Maharaj, but there are other characters also in the Srimad Bhagavatam who remind us that these difficulties, these distresses are actually meant for us to somehow or another get more close to Krishna, somehow or another feel Krishna's love. It's always there, but we need to connect with that. And so some of the other personalities, I'll just sing it in a song format. You'll understand the names anyway. Not really song, but kind of a prose. Maduvinolage Gajendrana Kaidanita. He protected Gajendra. Madadi Draupadiya Abhimana Rakshakanita. He protected Draupadi. Medukuva Ajamilana Pasha Pariharanita. He destroyed the illusion of Ajamila and protected him. Kadumechi Druvage Unnata Padaviyanita. He identified the need of Dhruva and he gave him more than what Dhruva asked. Kadalashayananita Karunambudita Sadagarada Purandara Vitalanita. This is composed by Purandara Dasa. He's a saint, contemporary during Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. And the point of this, the song continues, but the point of this mentioning these characters is that, like I mentioned earlier, without going through difficulties, we cannot go. Without difficulties, we cannot move. And when difficulties come, like in the cases of these Bhagavatam characters, they actually saw Krishna's hand in it and they carried on. They didn't sit down and feel lamentation and go into depression or become affected by hopelessness or guilt. They actually saw Krishna's hand and they moved on in each of this case. So the point is, when it comes to us, this is a very interesting psychological phenomenon for human beings. When it comes to our difficulties, it seems very big. It seems really painful. But when it's like other people's difficulties, we tend to undermine, or we try to artificially display advanced Vaishnava mood. So that's what I wanted to mention a little bit, that sometimes we can observe in ourselves, in our environment, that we may artificially try to accept these descriptions, because Srimad Bhagavatam has both descriptions and prescriptions. So this is one of the descriptions part, where a devotee is not affected by dualities. It's a description. But we cannot say, oh yeah, from tonight I'm not going to be affected by dualities, and nobody else around me also should be affected by dualities, because Srimad Bhagavatam says that. It doesn't really work like that. It's actually a gradual process, and that process actually can be achieved in the association of devotees. We can only go to that point of, okay, in distress, what do you do? Yes, you think about Krishna, but what do you do with the distress? Because we have this understanding that if somebody is going through a problem, they're not devotee. Because the idea is that if somebody is attached, then they are in Maya. If somebody is in the bodily conception, oh, I have pain here, or you are not devotee, because devotees don't feel distress, they don't feel pain. So we are put into this kind of mentality, thinking that if we are sharing our, Guhyam Akyati Prachati, if we're sharing our challenges, then immediately we get smacked on the head, somebody saying, Prabhu, stop it, you're in the bodily conception, you're too attached, you're in Maya. So the point is, it's not exactly how we like to be treated, do we? But there is, maybe you will say, I'm also preaching right now, but the point is there is too much preaching going on about be tough, be strong, don't open your heart, just, actually, this is kind of impersonalism, that you don't actually feel and you don't actually share what is actually challenging for you. So what I'm trying to say here is we have to look around our community and try to see that there are so many stressful situations, so many devotees are going through so many difficulties. Are we trying to impose this principle of, Prabhu, don't be affected by duality, just chant Hare Krishna and be happy? Or are we also following the most important principle of Krishna consciousness, of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission of compassion? Because Lord Chaitanya's mission is supposed to flood the whole world with love and compassion. Is our home flooded with compassion and love? Is our community flooded with compassion and love? Or are we just trying to artificially be emotionally blocked and imbalanced and just try to teach others how to be Krishna conscious, and we ourselves may not be really doing that? So this kind of understanding or misunderstanding is not easy, because we do what everybody else does. It's kind of like the karmic concept. Just fit in and just try to adjust and don't be who you are in the sense of the compassion aspect. There is a verse that comes to my mind from, it's called Keshavanama. This is about prayers to Lord Keshava to give us the right intelligence when we're dealing with material distress and happiness. Bittu bhavadaneka januma baddhanagi kalushadinda geddu pope buddhitoro padmanabhane. So to be able to understand how do we differentiate between this bhava, the material world workings, how do I react? How do I react to other people's suffering? We need some buddhi, we need some intelligence. And that intelligence, how we act with other devotees, is the path to get out of this material world, of this prison house. Srila Prabhupada was actually very intelligent in showing this aspect of Krishna consciousness. One time in Mayapur, he was crying, seeing some karmi people outside the gate because they were starving. Srila Prabhupada started crying. He was actually feeling this great sense of compassion. He could not see the suffering. And I was reading in Hari Sauri Prabhu's diary one time that Prabhupada was busy. I was supposed to go for a meeting, and he saw Hari Sauri Prabhu. It was a little cold and there was no chadar, so Srila Prabhupada gave his own personal chadar to him. And another time, Srila Prabhupada was in America, and 10 p.m., there was this girl, hippie girl, who came and started banging on Srila Prabhupada's door. And then he said, please come back later, but she was adamant. Srila Prabhupada opened the door, spoke to her, don't know, for a long time. Then he took her to the assistant to be able to please deal with her. Prabhupada dealt very patiently, and then took her to one of the devotees. He walked quite a distance with her in the 11 o'clock p.m. Imagine Prabhupada, taking this girl. And then the devotee started talking to her. What's your problem? Why did you disturb Srila Prabhupada at this time with her? And she immediately felt so blocked and constipated or whatever that she ran away. And then later, next time, Srila Prabhupada, when he understood that he wasn't happy, he said, actually, you should take care. So the point is, we can actually look around us. How are we dealing? How are people around us dealing? And, we can make a difference. If we really want, we can. Because the outside world is looking at us because we are preaching, we have the best philosophy. I mean, no doubt, we have the best philosophy. But what is that philosophy? It's a philosophy of love. It's a philosophy of compassion. And every jiva is actually looking for that connection. It's looking for that compassion. And my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapatak Maharaj, he often actually tells devotees that one way you can really advance in Krishna consciousness is to make sure that the other devotees around you are happy. If you take care. And he says that if you don't give them friendship and love, they're going to look for it outside. And one devotee was actually telling me, in Europe, there's all these, I don't know many words, but many of these names of these festivals. There's Rainbow Festival and I don't know what other festivals. So there are a lot of these mindfulness, yoga people, New Age meditation, all these kinds of people gather there. And I heard that a lot of devotees go there just to find friends. Because it's sometimes very difficult among devotees because we get smacked in the head immediately as soon as we say, I'm having difficulty. And if some devotees want to cry, those people out there, they don't know what is love. They don't know what is Krishna. But they'll give you a shoulder to cry on. And sometimes some people, if we don't give it to the people around us, then they will go somewhere else. And so we should see. I'm only seeing, we see both. We see very loving, affectionate, loving exchanges between devotees. And sometimes we see devotees don't talk to each other. There's so many issues. They don't want to resolve it. And then we see that so much disconnection in our community. In different places, there are different situations. But I'm only saying, let's take a look. Let's take a look at what we can do. My friend Praneshwari here, she always teaches me one of the best things you can do to devotees, at least you can pray, because she's like the super enthusiastic devotee, always being caring, always trying to see. She and her husband, they do amazing service. Since I've seen them every day, they're always busy serving somebody, and she feels frustrated that she doesn't have enough number of hours and energy to serve more devotees. And another devotee was sharing just yesterday when I was talking about one of the purports, and this devotee was saying, we just newly moved in, and there are so many devotees around here in the place. They know we just moved in. We didn't have water, we didn't have food. We were actually, struggling to bring stuff around, and I kind of felt this sense of uncomfort to ask. The Mataji was looking through the window that we were doing this. Maybe, I felt maybe it's wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with me to expect that she will ask me, do you need a glass of water? And then we get into this culture of, I'm sorry, but I'm including myself. We get into this culture of impersonalism. Oh, it's none of my business. And the only thing is we have to see if that's how we like to be treated. Some devotees don't care. I know some devotees are very happy with their themselves. They don't really need much socialization. But the point is, are we afraid to be criticized and therefore we are not opening our hearts? Are we trying to artificially show that I'm not affected by distress, but we are actually, you will be surprised how many leaders and devotees have their own struggles. We may tell them, oh, you're not doing this, especially managers. We tell them, this is not done, that is not done, but they also have their own challenges. So we have to be careful. And there is this new or few years now, initiative, devotee care. So they're trying to do different things in order to make devotees feel happy and cared for. Of course, it's not only programs and seminars, it's the personal relationship that actually can really help us to get here, really go to that description. One devotee, few devotees, there are so many stories, but one devotee that yesterday, it struck my mind that he was going through so many challenges that nobody knew in the community. Externally was looking fine and enthusiastic and I don't want to give too many details, you will figure out. But basically he went into such level of depression and desperateness and hopelessness, and that he couldn't trust anybody to open his heart, that he hanged himself and he died. He was an initiated devotee and everything. So later on, devotees like, wow, we didn't actually know, right? One of the neighbors was like, we never figured out that he was sad. So it's not Maya to feel pain. I was reading that there is a pain of cancer, there's a pain of heartbreak of relationships, there's a pain of a child when it loses its toy or the teddy bear, but it's all pain. So it may not be what for you is very hard, but for that particular devotee, it may be very, very hard. The verse of Srimad Bhagavatam where Prahlad Maharaj, there's a series of verses, he goes on describing how the materialistic people are attached to somehow or another find their comfort zone in the Durga, the fort of this material world. And the one of the concluding verses, he's actually talking about the essence of Krishna consciousness. He's a pure devotee. He's in this platform, right? Prahlad Maharaj, from the throat down from the mountain, smashed by the elephant, bitten by the poisonous snakes, nothing could actually affect him. So he says, Naivo dvije paraduratyaya vaitaranyas tvadvirya gayana rasamrita magna chitta. So the first part of the verse he says, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of this distress, basically, because I'm totally absorbed. Magna chitta, my consciousness is completely absorbed in you, in your lotus feet. So I'm not afraid. Shochetato vimukachetasa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharamudvahato vimudan. But I'm very much concerned with love for all these people, materialistic, foolish people who are running behind this maya sukhaya, this illusory happiness. So he is with love concerned for these people. My concern is for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness. I'm simply concerned with love for them. Thank you. I heard in one of these beautiful classes, Adipurusha Prabhu once gave many years ago. Adipurusha Prabhu from Vrindavan, Viayachi. And he said that in the lotus feet of Krishna, there is the mark of the fish. And that fish will be able to swim in the hearts of the devotees only when that heart melts. When it's hard like a stone, it's impossible for that fish to actually swim in and give us bhakti. So the basic element of bhakti is that melting of the heart, is that compassion for others, even if we are situated, if someone is situated in the perfect, pure platform, we should be able to see the pain of others. Because the world out there is enough judgmental about the Hare Krishna movement, the tilak that we wear, the clothes that we wear, the mantras that we sing, the lifestyle, the vegetarianism, the principle. We have enough judgmental attitude from the world. But within, we shouldn't have the same. We should actually be able to see that individual natures of different people and try to, this is kind of something I'm telling myself, but I will share with you that I'm trying to learn to see that to see that diversity and to not judge. Because we don't know if that person is going through the difficulty because of Maya, or it is my Maya to think like that. I don't know. One time, Srila Prabhupada was asked by a devotee, Srila Prabhupada, how can I remain Krishna conscious when I'm going out and working in the karmi world all day long? And Srila Prabhupada said, don't give your heart to them. And then he said, do that only with devotees. Then I started thinking, wow, in our devotee exchanges, how many times do we really give our heart, open our hearts? Because I often think, even with devotees, sometimes we want to have like a professional relationship, or we want to have like a diplomatic relationship. Then I thought, wow, this particular instruction of Srila Prabhupada applies there. Then we are dealing like karmis. When we deal with devotees in that way, then we are dealing with like karmis. We have experience how we deal with karmis, no? Very careful, say the right things. And okay, this is very important. I'm not saying, okay, now after the class, go out there, start pouring your heart. Please don't do that. Be very careful. But this is a point of introspection to see if we are there for the others. Are we there so people can come and open their hearts? Or are we putting walls, and we're already in the fort of Durga, and then put more walls, to making it more difficult for people, more boundaries? And so the point is, only those of us who can feel the pain and distress of others, we can preach Krishna consciousness. Because the preaching, the essence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission of this era is compassion. So without that compassion, which is actually the sublime quality of Srimati Radharani, then it's not possible that we can give Krishna to others. So I leave you with this question. Do you feel around you vibrating aura of compassion? Do you plan to activate that? Do you plan to find and work on relationship with devotees which can enhance that? Because it begins with one person, and then it's like a effect, multiplying effect. And it's also the opposite, right? When we start being more in just thinking about ourselves, then it becomes the same thing everywhere around. And during these past few days of classes, I was like, that sense of, yeah, this is all great in theory to listen to it, but where is it practically, this level of tolerance, acceptance? Yes, I don't have it, yes, but where can I see it? And then Krishna actually showed me. So there was a couple of devotees that I was not behaving good, and I was being a little offensive, and I thought I will never be forgiven. But then the person's reaction to the situation just completely melted my heart. That I completely gave up all the negative thoughts that I had, and I just trashed it, and it just became easy. And then I realized, yeah, it's like that. If you do something, then it's going to have a chain reaction. So, in this case, the other person showed the tolerance, acceptance, the forgiveness, and I thought, wow, this is a devotee. This is what it means. Not that we are never affected by distress or never feeling pain or disturbance, but how you react, how we react to it. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, comments, corrections. Oh, I have a question here actually. Yes, Prabhu, maybe we'll take this and then you had your hand up? Yeah. Well, let's do that and then. No, you please. This is from the internet?
Govinda. We read in Srimad Bhagavatam that the most glorious virtue of a woman is that she's chaste to her husband, and there's different examples given like Gandhari and the wife of Ravana. And I was confused because Ravana was a very abusive husband. He was a drunkard, he ate meat, he was had affairs with younger women, he was it's full of so many bad qualities, but then his wife is being glorified for being chaste to him. And I was wondering if it's because she's being tolerant and compassionate to her husband. How is it that, like in a modern divorce court, she would probably get the house and the custody of the children, and but instead they're saying that the glory of a woman is being chaste to a husband, even such a husband. So why is a woman glorious for being chaste to somebody like that?
Okay, very tough question, but I'm going to. So let me just repeat your question just to make sure I understood it correctly. So you're saying, I don't know why you brought up Mandodari with this point, but I think you're talking about distress and how do you remain, that's your, I'm trying to find the connection with the class and your question. I'm sorry? Right. So going back to the translation and purport, you are thinking of Parvati Devi and you're talking about Mandodari here, right? So your question is, Mandodari had an abusive husband who was basically a nonsense, but still she was very chaste. So you're asking, in a modern situation with a husband like that, what is the quality of Mandodari that we can imbibe? Is that basically right? Thank you. Okay. Few things came to my mind when you asked the question. The first thing is that I hear, I'm not a good example, but I can only share what I heard, is that we should do our duty without trying to, expect what the other person should do. So that was one thing that Mandodari was doing. She was doing her part perfectly. And she wasn't really saying, I will be Sita if you're Rama. Of course, they wouldn't use Rama Sita example there, but Lakshmi or Narayan. I am going to be that's generally, right? As soon as you tell a husband or a wife, why don't you behave? Say, you're not Sita for me to be Rama, or you're not Rama that I can be Sita. That's generally the argument. So she was not doing that. She was just like, let me focus on what I can do. Let me do my part. That was one thing that she did. She did her part. So that's one thing we can learn. So we should always try to do our part, do the best possible. Then, of course, Hare Krishna, karma, Krishna, whatever is going to happen, that we can do. All of us can do that. Of course, this brings me back to a little bit about what I was talking. We should also be careful to not be too judgmental, because sometimes somebody was mentioning there was a class somewhere in Europe, and a devotee lady raised her hand, and she was really desperate. She was crying, and then she said, Prabhu, Maharaj, whatever, you were speaking about women, chastity. I just wanted to tell you that my husband, he was associating with other men, and he told some problems we had, and they recommended him to beat me up, and he used to beat me up. And so she broke down in the class, and the speaker was basically unable to handle, and he just said, in the Vedic tradition, a Brahmana woman will not share such a thing in public. And that woman was devastated, because she was in such a desperate situation. She couldn't really approach anybody, and the whole class was about that. So she said, okay, maybe this is the moment that I should do it. And then she was smashed again. So the point is, in the case of Mandodari, that's why we talk about her. She's one of the Panchakanyas. Mandodari is one of them, regardless of how her husband was. Just like I'm thinking of Pishima, Srila Prabhupada's sister, regardless of how her husband was, she did her duty. But we need to make sure, if you're seeing some woman around who's having that issue, to also give her support to be able to get some strength to deal with the situation. Lakshmi Mani Prabhu the other day we were discussing, because I'm working on this premarital seminar. So she was actually saying that no man can fulfill all the needs of the woman, emotionally speaking. So she needs to have friends. She needs to have a community where she can actually interact. And because sometimes women do that. You put all your hopes, all the eggs in one basket, as they say. We want that one man who's not Krishna, who's never going to be Krishna, to fulfill all those wish lists. It's just not going to happen. Bhaktividyapurna Gurukul Maharaj always says, have some girlfriends to do that. So in a practical situation, we wouldn't tell the woman, just, stick to the abuse, stay there and go through whatever, just don't come out. It may be unhealthy. It may be very unhealthy for her to do that. Because like you said, like divorce court, what would happen? Probably Ravana will be punished, right? Ravana will be beaten up or something. In practical application in Krishna consciousness, that's where the community, the support, everything comes into place. And when I was doing different research for this project that I'm working on, it's called Bhakti Marriages, I found that most of the problems, like everything looks fine in a marriage for years and years and years, outside, for the outsiders, because none of them are actually interacting with other people or sharing their challenges. But then after many years, you see that they had some huge crisis, they had some huge problem. And then we realized that, the problem was because they didn't actually start talking about it, getting the support. It's not that the problem is going to solve. Ravana is going to be Ravana. But at least maybe Mandodari can have the strength to deal with what she's got in her karma, etc. Of course, if really is an abusive situation, then it should be dealt. It's because sometimes women are too afraid to speak about it, and it can be detrimental for her Krishna consciousness. So that's where I'm stressing again that community. What kind of community do we have? Do we have, before we help others, our own family should be together. Are we being caring with our spouses? Are we taking care of their emotional needs? Then, as a community, do we have healthy families? And then we can imbibe these qualities and think about it from that perspective. The example you gave is extreme, but this is what comes to my mind, that to be able to apply it, we shouldn't artificially try to impose Vedic rules of woman shouldn't do that, woman shouldn't do this. And but Vedic time, there was also the whole family who was supporting. There was a father-in-law, the mother-in-law, the sister-in-law, the brother-in-law, the grandparents. They were all living together. There was a whole support system. Also Vedic time, the girl was married when she was 12 years old, or even 7, right? And so the whole concept is different. I don't know how old was Mandodari when she got married. And there was no option of divorce. There was no such concept of divorce. Divorce and go where? She still will stay in Lanka or jump in fire before Ravana dies. There was not like too many options back then. I'm not saying Mandodari would have in modern situation done something differently. I don't know. But we have to see the time, place, and circumstance and see. We have Prabhupada's instructions. Prabhupada says sometimes apparently contradictory things. I don't want to get into it, we're really getting late. But we need to be intelligent and discriminate and try to see how we can apply this in a balanced way. To not go extremes. Not say, throw away all these Vedic rules, who cares, just do what the world is doing. It's not intelligent. And to say, transpose Vedic ideals without having the proper environment to apply it can also be very dangerous. And we're sometimes doing that. And the point that I mentioned at the end, the point about devotees means they don't have suffering, they don't have pain. Only if you're in Maya, then you are affected by bodily distress and mind distress. Prabhu or Mataji, or mind is very agitated, so you're in Maya, get your act together. These are all that kind of transposing certain principles in a not right environment. So we have to see how we can balance and synthesize those contradictory statements Prabhupada said to see what will help the person in Krishna consciousness. What will help that person move on in their sadhana, move on in their faith towards Krishna. Because Krishna's love, care can only be experienced through devotees. Unless some great acharya who can hear the deities speaking and giving instructions, we hear from devotees. We want to talk with Krishna, we want to share our pain, we do that through devotees. I heard Vakreshwari Mataji telling me the other day. She said, Krishna hears through the ear of his devotees. So if you want to share some pain that you have, you speak to a devotee, then Krishna hears you. So if there are any Mandodaris, talk to some devotees. Okay, let's see this. Is it okay? Did it help? Thank you. Yes, Lakshmi Mani Prabhu.
Just one thing in relation to Mandodari and also in relation to Prabhupada.
Can we have the mic, please?
Just talking in relation to modern times, Prabhupada said that a woman shouldn't stay with an abusive husband. He specifically said that. So that's there. But even Mandodari, I mean, she was extremely tolerant. She was one of many wives, but she was the chief wife, and she was, Ravana's confidant. They were very close. Even though he was a tyrant in many ways, he had great affection for her, and they had a fulfilling relationship for her. Often we depict Ravana as a very ugly, ghastly, because we hear demon, like demon means something to us visually, but he was extremely attractive, and most women married him willingly because he was very wealthy, he had lots of money, he gave lots of gifts, he was very charismatic.
Yeah.
So it's not like he, was a monster. He was a monster in one sense, but to many ladies, he wasn't a monster. So that's there also. But also Mandodari gave him very good counsel in regards to Sita.
Yeah.
It's not like she just said whatever he did was great. She went to him and she said, hey, listen, you better give Sita back. Otherwise, you're going to get in big trouble. You're going to ruin everything. Everything you ever had, you're going to lose if you don't give Sita back to Ram. Don't mess with a chaste woman. That's what she said. You're messing with Sita. Sita is the most chaste woman. By interfering with the relationship between a chaste woman and her husband, you're bringing death to yourself and to your whole kingdom. And he didn't listen. So the results we know from the Ramayana that didn't work out too well. Of course, there's Leela aspect. He was Jai, Vijay, whatever. But practically, she did give him advice, and he didn't listen to it. But she gave him good advice.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very important point. And I just wanted to, like she said about, Prabhupada said that a woman shouldn't stay with an abusive husband. What I've seen is sometimes you have to define abusive. Because some women may categorize any little anger by the husband as abusive, or, so on. So you should be careful, because my father-in-law, he used to say, the office for complication of simple matters is always open. I mean, that can apply in any of how we see our problems. Sometimes there may be like a small problem and then we make it big. We keep lamenting, thinking about the same thing, how I did it, why I did it wrong. And personally for me, it's like, just, think, focus, affirm what you want to think. Don't think about the past. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kangshati. So don't think, oh, my husband did this 3.5 years ago, and then you keep thinking about that. So we have to define abusive. So just taking 1 minute. Today is the disappearance day of Sri Krishna Kaliyadas. So this is from Chaitanya Bhagavat. One will surely attain Sri Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda simply by remembering Kaliya Krishnadas. Kaliya Krishnadas ki jai. Completely devoted to Lord Nityananda, Kaliya Krishnadas knew nothing but the lotus feet of Nitai. He left his body while doing bhajan in Vrindavan. In Vrajalila, he is Labanga, a coward boyfriend of Krishna Balaram. Haribo. I also heard, just before I sat on the Vyasas and I was asking devotees if they knew something else, I also heard that he used to run behind Mahaprasadam. That was one of his great enthusiastic actions. He used to run behind Mahaprasadam. So thank you very much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.